good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy, and I wanted to come on. I sent out an invite, which is a week-long invite, and it really is throughout every day or day of the week because last week was International HR Day. Last week, I wanted to extend that because I believe that we should continue to encourage HR professionals around the world, those professionals who make a difference in organization and in the lives of the communities in which they work and serve. It is service, and sometimes it's thankless service for some. And I wanted to make sure that every person took an opportunity to thank, especially the HR professionals that have made a difference in their life. Over the weekend, I had an opportunity to talk with a younger HR professional, which is one of my favorite things to do. And he was talking about not having a mentor necessarily very early on. And it made me think about some of the people I called mentors who were informal mentors. They weren't officially a mentor. We didn't have a mentor mentee relationship as might be traditionally defined. And there has certainly been an absence of African American male mentors in human resources. I won't say it's necessarily been a male dominated space, but there are some great African American men and men in general in human resources. But a lot of the mentorship that I've experienced has been from women in the human resources space, especially early on. And so there is one individual. I was talking this weekend with this mentee, maybe, and we were talking about service time for him as a vet. And I asked him what grade did he leave the service at? And he was telling me, special this and special that. I said, no, what grade? And I said, E3, E4, E5. And I asked that, and it unlocked a memory for me very early on in my human resources personnel days. Some of you will remember those words being used interchangeably. I worked at a food service company, and it was a family-owned company, is still a family-owned company. And one of the principals was an employment law attorney. And I was in this operations management trainee position, trained in various areas of the company, in purchasing and customer service, in operations, in human resources, and in accounting. And when I had my time in human resources personnel and I got a chance to sit in on some interviews, she said, come on. And I was just having a great time in the interview. And she said, let me tell you a little bit about personnel and human resources. Let me see if you like that. I got slotted in the operations management trainee spot in logistics, I think because of the math aptitude and maybe being able to analyze things pretty quickly. Maybe that was why. But I kept migrating to these opportunities with people and with process. And she said, you should consider this. She said, so when you're going through these resumes and people have service time, see if they made it beyond E3. She said, because in a lot of instances from her experience, people that didn't make it beyond E3, there was some behavioral challenge. There was something that prevented them from getting to the next step. And it should raise a flag for you to have some discussion about what they did in the service and why they decided, to leave service. And that always stuck with me. So whenever I see someone who has Army experience or experience in the service, I always ask the rank that they ended, because that comes back to me. And I kind of delve deeper. And to date, and I haven't talked of course to everybody in service, but to date, I have found from my own experience that anybody who was that E3 or below leaving service, there was something there after we delved and had some discussions and questions about their service. where they would share if I ever harken back to, even if we made an offer to them, and I harken back to some of the challenges, I could see where there was a difference when people who had E4 or above and people who had E3 and below. And so I've always been thankful for those tips that I got from that employment law attorney. And it was really a beginning of a foray in my interest in human resources and how people interact with the company and how the processes, whether they're people driven, profit driven, because sometimes you do a process and you say, okay, this is the quickest, easiest way to make money. But then when you infuse people, you understand there are some other dynamics you might consider about regular and continuous improvement to those processes, and that you might consider about ideation and innovation. And I've been fortunate enough over the years to layer in some of those things that I learned from various people. So hats off to Sophie Totarian. This would have been just about, let's see, it feels like almost 30, not quite 30 years ago. I'm not that old, so I'm not going to say 30 years. A long time, above 25 years ago, where I got that first introduction to human resources and interviewing and really vetting and screening candidates and watching candidates' behaviors and all of those tips and tricks of those early recruitment, well, I guess we call it talent acquisition days, of tips that I gleaned from Sophie Totarian. And that was the beginning of that. I, at that time, had no inclination that I would continue in human resources. I had spent a little time prior to that under a human resources director. And I thought from that experience that human resources would not be for me at that time. But the director's boss in that organization, who, had some tremendous impact on me as well, and said, never look at your boss as the sole motivation for the work that you do. And I know in this day and time, we said people leave their bosses, and I believe they do. But your sole motivation shouldn't be driven by your boss. It should be driven by your purpose. What is your purpose? You have gifts, but do you have purpose? Happy International Expanded HR Day. And thank you, Sophie Totarian, for those things that you taught me very early on. Tomorrow, I will share a little bit more, but I'm hoping that you will share from your experiences. Drop a picture of that person or drop their name across platforms, just to let human resources professionals to know and to continue know how much their work matters. I'm Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy. I'll see you at some point this week, and I'll continue to share. And I encourage you to continue to share who is that HR professional, or are those HR professionals who have made a difference in your life, community, or organization. Have a grateful day.